Hello, everybody. Hello, everyone in Euphoria. Welcome to Mind Your Own Business. I'm Dr. Erin, and we are going to bring in 2020 with such clarity and such passion and such purpose and such motivation and such confidence and such joy and such health. We're going to cover all of those things today in the next 15 minutes, so grab your notes. I posted the 20 questions in the Mind Your Own Business Facebook group, so you can reference those later if you would like. So today's training, what I want you to know about today's training is, as a psychologist, I have really accumulated and gathered the science of 30 years of goal attainment theory, of cognitive theory, of what makes the highest performers that way. What's the science and the psychology behind the success of high performers and people that want to be leaders? And that's all of you, because you're on this call. And so I want you to know that every single one of these 20 questions comes from research and really gathering and studying the best of the best, and 30 years of psychological theory on goal attainment. So are you ready? Okay, this is going to be so great. So I really want you to imagine carving out some time for yourself and answering every single one of these questions for yourself for 2020, and watch what happens to your year. Okay, so the first question to make 2020 vision in your Euphoria business, the first question, we're just going to start with the big one. What's your purpose? Oh, that's all. That's what we're covering here. Okay, this is how I help people understand their purpose, and their purpose in Euphoria, as well as your purpose on the planet, which is a really big thing to bite off. Okay, but here's what I believe. It's actually simpler than you may think. I want you to think about what breaks your heart. I want you to think about what need do you see in the world? Because I believe that you have been called to fill that need. So there you go. There's your purpose on the planet. You're welcome. We did that in 1 minute. But really, what breaks your heart is kind of the best way I look at that. So for example, something I struggled with a lot of my life was, am I ever going to be great? Am I ever going to be good enough? I struggled with that a lot of my life. Now my purpose on the planet is to set the captives free from feelings of unworthiness, lack of confidence, perfectionism, and self-doubt. So you see, my purpose is very much tied to the pain that I see in the world, or the pain that I want to help solve. What's a problem you want to help solve? Do you want more love in the world? That's your purpose. And then you get to figure out, how do I live my purpose in each of the hats that I wear? How do I do that in my Euphoria business? How do I do that if you're a mom, as a mom? How do I do that in relationships? So that's your purpose. So really, a lot of people struggle with, like, what's my purpose? I don't know if I have a purpose on the planet. That's your purpose. Okay. Number 2, who is your ideal self? So if we don't know who your identity wants to be, it's going to be really hard to behave in line with it. So this is what I call values clarification. And I'm going to throw a lot at you in the next 15 minutes, but I know you can handle it. So values clarification means, what are the 3 words that would describe me if I was being my ideal self? And let's take Euphoria. What 3 words would describe me being my ideal self as a nutritionist in 2020? And just brainstorm what words those would be, and just pick 3. Maybe get to the end and just say, for now, I'm going to pick these 3 words. So maybe it's, I am loving, dedicated, and integral. That then is going to be your compass for how you're going to behave every single day. So if you've made a promise to yourself that you're going to reach out to 5 new people, and your word is integrity, guess what you get to do in order to feel really good about yourself? You get to make those 5 reach outs, right? So your ideal self is the GPS. It's the coordinates to creating any and all of your dreams. And this is where people get it wrong. They don't do this step, and they just create a goal. And then they wonder why they're not hitting their goal, or they wonder why are other people disciplined and I'm not? And I believe discipline is just a forgetting problem. It's just you've forgotten to check in with your ideal self. And many people haven't even defined their ideal self in order to check in with. So That's a big one, okay? Number 3, what would my ideal self do? Number 3, what would my ideal self do? So if your ideal self is successful and joyful and a rainmaker or free in euphoria, what would that person do each day? And I hope you've heard this concept, and if you haven't, it can change your life. But it's this concept of, okay, you need to behave right now as if you are that person in the future. So how would a person of rank free in euphoria behave? How would they conduct themselves? You know, leaders are leaders before they get the team. You're a leader by how you're being in the world, not by your rank. I mean, that right there should be a bumper sticker. You're a leader by how you're being in the world, not your rank in euphoria. So leaders are leaders before they have a team. Okay, number 4, how can I serve others greatly? How can I serve others greatly? This, my friends, is what is called your mission. This is what motivates people. So when people say, I'm just not feeling motivated, I was so excited on January 1st and now it's January 15th and I haven't done anything, I'm just not motivated. All that tells me is you've forgotten your mission. And we just need to remind your brain on a really regular basis, daily, what your mission is. Where are we going? Why are we wanting to go there? Who are we trying to serve greatly? Who's counting on us to be on our A game? Who is kind of bummed out if we don't continue our mission? Who suffers if we quit? Who suffers if we play at mediocrity? So that's your mission. How can I serve others greatly? And sometimes the person who's counting on you to play on your A game is you. And that's okay. That's good. Sometimes it's your family. Sometimes it's your future clients. Sometimes it's your bank account. Sometimes it's the charity that you want to be able to give to. Whatever it is, how can you serve others greatly? That's your mission. And that, my friends, is motivation. So the question of how do I get more motivated is, how do I serve others greatly? It's a really interesting definition of motivation. Okay, now we are on how, I'm going to lose count. Okay, the next question. What impact do I desire to have on others? So I want you to really start every day in your Euphoria business and ask yourself, like, how do I want to show up? What impact do I desire having on others? How would that change how I post something? How would that change how I show up for a coffee date? What energy am I bringing to the situation? Am I listening with intent to serve? So what impact do I desire to have on others? If you want to be a leader, you need to have influence. So how do I teach people how to think about things differently in this health and wellness industry? What impact do I want to have on others? Okay, the next question. What is my best yes? Now, figuring out what to say yes to and no to in this very, very busy, distracted, confusing world we live in is really predicated on first establishing where you're going. And then what can be really helpful there is figuring out, like, what would be the 3 buckets of activity for 2020 that I would do in order to reach that goal. So if my goal is to rank advance, maybe one bucket is prospecting. Maybe one bucket is sales and closing. And maybe one bucket is increased visibility on social media. So first and foremost, before we can figure out what's my best yes and what should I say no to and what should I say yes to, first we got to know where we're going in 2020. So get really clear with your goal and share that with someone in your team. And then throughout the year, you get to say, would I say yes to that? Like, does that further my goal? You know, one of my big goals this year is Euphoria. Obviously, it's number 1. And so many things come and try to distract me from it. So many things, so many great things. And the problem is when you have to choose between great things, isn't it? When you've got like lots of great opportunities, focused helps you say yes to the best and the most, the things that move the needle on your dream the most. I always like to say, before I say yes to something, I'm going to run it by my dream first. Before you say yes to something, run it by your 2020 plan first and say, does that move it forward? Does spending a day making this beautiful flyer move my dream forward? Maybe not, right? Okay. The next question, so cheesy, but super good. What is your superpower? And this is what I want you to realize about your superpower. So what is your superpower? Your superpower is not necessarily something that you're really great at. It's not necessarily like a skill. Oftentimes your superpower is that way of being that people love about you. So I want you to think back on your whole life. What has been a theme? What has been something that people have said to you over and over in your life that they just love about you? Maybe it's your ability to have next level thinking. Maybe it's your ability to light up a room. Maybe it's your ability to think of others before yourself. Maybe it's your ability to energetically attract amazing people. Maybe it's your ability to be kind. But I want you to just think about, like, what have people said about you your whole life? That, my friends, is your superpower. And I want you to think about, how can I use that in my business? That's your superpower. That's going to supercharge your success more than any strategy that you may ever learn. Okay. Next question. How can I remain curious? If you study the greats, the business titans, the greatest athletes in the world, the greatest business people, the best of the best, Harvard Business Review had an article about this, but if you study them, the trait that they all have is being curious. So I want to give you a phrase that you can tell your brain that's just going to help you be curious, and it's, I wonder. So the brain is a goal-achieving machine, and the brain doesn't know when you're telling it a lie or truth, or you're imagining something, or it's really happening. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to remain curious. I wonder who I'm going to meet today. I wonder how quickly I'm going to rank advance to influencer. I wonder how fun that's going to be to pick out my car. I wonder what kind of car I'm going to get. I wonder who's going to be on my team this year. I wonder what fun we're going to have. I wonder where our next vacation is going to be. I wonder how great it's going to feel when my team member texts me and say, it's because of Uforia, I can do this. Thank you so much for sharing this with me. I want you wondering, because guess what? The brain's like a homing pigeon. It's like, where? And it's going to go looking for it. Isn't that cool? Okay, so be super curious and use your curiosity for good. This is like Star Wars. Use it for good. Instead of wondering what if, bad stuff, you're going to wonder, I wonder, and then start wondering the positives. I wonder how quickly I'm going to go influencer. I wonder. I wonder what it's going to feel like to make the leaderboard. I wonder. Okay. So how do I remain curious? Okay, next question. How can I fail forward? If the definition of failure is just you're not learning, then there is no failure. So I believe if we're learning, then there is no failure, right? So how can I fail forward really is this concept of, how can I constantly be looking at, like, oh, that was a terrible sales call. I was really weird on that sales call. What can I learn from that? How can I fail forward? See, there's no failing if we're like, oh, I can't wait for the next one because that one was awful. So I call it climb the bad, good, great ladder. Are you willing to be bad, to be good, to be great? When I first practiced Travis's script, it was not as shiny as it is now, okay? It was not as good. So we all get to climb the bad, good, great ladder. So are you willing, and how can you fail forward? Okay, next, what actions move the needle on what matters most in my Uforia business? I'll say it again. What actions move the needle on what matters most in my Uforia business? So we live in a world of distractions and overwhelm and tons of data and technology overload. And we can find ourselves scrolling for hours on end. We can enter the Bermuda Triangle and never get out of the Facebook, right? So asking yourself, does this action move the needle on what matters most to my dream? It's going to be a really great question to keep at the top of your mind. Okay, next question. Because see, let's go back to that for a second. Successful people really are clear. They have clarity on what they want. And then the clarity is, now what do I do that moves that forward? So remember, productivity is actually a measure of how well you're leading your dream. It's not hours worked. Isn't that interesting? Productivity has nothing to do with hours worked. It's why some of the most successful people that produce the most amount of work, they're not necessarily getting more hours in the day. They're not sleeping. They're figuring out how to like bend time, and they're bending time by figuring out what they say no to. I am the queen of no. I say no to so many things, and it makes me appear insanely productive. Okay, next, how can I take care of my health? Okay, why would I say this? Ron Williams says it best. No one reaches epic goals by stepping over their health. I loved when he said that. No one reaches a legacy by stepping over their health. No successful people reach success by stepping over your health. Your health is your moneymaker. Do you know that? Your health is your energy. Your energy is what's going to attract people more than any script that you ever learn, more than any data you know about nutrition. Your health is your moneymaker. When I go to the gym and I get on the treadmill, I literally have trained my brain to say, look at me growing my empire. Look at me being a great mom, because I know they're linked, and they're certainly linked for me. If I don't take care of my health, it's all going away. So don't view taking care of your health as something that takes you away from growing your business. View it as, look at me growing my business at the gym or wherever I'm taking care of myself. Okay. And I will say one thing, I say this out of love, and I say this, of course, not out of we have to be perfect, but I want you to think about influencers role model the way. And we are in a health and wellness industry and business. And so I just want you to think about, how can my ideal self be in integrity and take care of my health so that I can role model the way and onboard people into my health movement that we have here in Uforia. All right, so next question, how can I be resourceful? I want you to think of successful people. Tony Robbins says this, successful people don't necessarily have the resources, but they have resourcefulness. And you all can be resourceful. Before you go on a thread and say, where do I find this? Have you looked for it? Before you ask your upline, what should I say? Have you studied the scripts? Have you gone through Eric Worre's training? Like all of those things. How can I be resourceful? And because you're going to want to teach your teams how to be resourceful. Okay. So, and then you're going to teach your future customers how to be resourceful. You're going to teach them, like, I know you really want this product. You just said you wanted it so badly and you're wondering about the money. Let's be resourceful together. Where do we got money that we can move around? Like, you're going to teach people how to be resourceful as well. Okay, next question. Am I taking responsibility for everything in my life? That's not fun, but it's really freeing and it's really important. Are you blaming other people, or are you taking responsibility? The best of the best say, what was my part in this? What was my part in this? The best of the best clean their side of the street, and they don't worry about other people's side of the street. They take their own inventory, and they're so busy taking their own inventory, they don't possibly have time to take other people's inventory. It's a beautiful way to live because it decreases comparitis. You know, that disease that's killing all of us, comparing ourselves to other people. So take responsibility. Am I taking responsibility for everything in my life? Next question, how can I solve this problem? I want you to think of this question. How can I solve this problem? I want you to realize the most successful people view themselves as professional problem solvers. Isn't that interesting? So I heard from Tom Bilyeu. He owned Quest Nutrition. It was a $1 billion company. And he said something once that just always has stuck with me. Their motto at Quest Nutrition was, cut the BS, get to yes. So when anyone in a team meeting, a business meeting was like, we just can't do this. We don't know how to, it was like, it wasn't even allowed. It was like, wait, we get to yes. Like, we're professional problem solvers. So if you have a complaint about Uforia or something, guess what? Guess what you get to do? You get to figure out, how can I solve this problem for us? How can I solve this problem? So your job, nutritionist, professional problem solver. Okay, next question. Who am I spending time with? Jim Rohn, greatest personal development guru, says, you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with. Choose wisely. I want you to guard your time. I want you to guard your energy. And I want to say this about this. A lot of us women especially get freaked out about this because it feels like we're judging people. And I want to tell you, there's a difference between judging people and discernment. So we are not going to judge people's worth on the planet. We're simply going to discern, does spending time with this person add value to my life? Does it take or give me energy? Like, again, not judging their worth on the planet, but discerning that if energy is contagious, it works both ways, good and bad. And sometimes it's just kind of, again, being a professional problem solver and figuring out, how can I see that person or spend time with that person where it's not 2 hours of my time? Or sometimes I say, like, what other networking function will I see you at next? Sometimes it's, instead of meeting someone for coffee, it's let's quickly hop on the phone. So sometimes it's just saving some time for yourself and keeping some boundaries for yourself, if that makes sense. So we're doing this all out of love, but really looking at the people that I'm spending time with. Do they add energy, or are they a deposit or a withdrawal? And are you a deposit or a withdrawal when you're with people? Okay, we got 5 more questions. Next one. Oh, this is a doozy. This is from Tim Ferriss and his book of Titans, and he studied all the great Titans in the industry. And it's, what can I learn from those I don't like? And he says, what can I learn from those I hate? So I'm not going to say that because we don't hate anybody. What can I learn from those I don't like? So if there are people in this industry that are having success and you're just like, how in the world? You got to ask yourself, whether the successful people and happy people ask themselves, well, what can I learn from them? That you might even find that your agitation is exactly what you need to be bringing to the industry. So that's a really interesting thing, that some of the greatest disruptors in business and in the world, they notice, like, what agitates you? What makes you upset? What about this industry do you not like? It's probably the thing that you're being called to do differently, to be bold and to say, oh, maybe other people are feeling this way. Oh, so what can I learn from those I don't like? Okay, next question. Am I staying committed to growth? So there's this idea that if you're not growing, you're actually going backwards. High performers, high achievers, the best of the best, there's no such thing as stagnant. And it's interesting. I want you to hear this. High performers are not dissatisfied strivers. They are not dissatisfied strivers. So what are they? They are blissfully always growing. So it's like concurrently, on one hand, I am grateful for all that I have. And on the other hand, I am open to work towards all that I desire. So this is where you'll hear the greats will say, like, there's no finish line. There's no I'm being done. It doesn't mean they're dissatisfied. And actually, if you're dissatisfied, it will stunt your growth. So gratitude will supercharge your growth. So you're going to concurrently at the same time be grateful for all that you have and open to receive and work hard towards all that you desire. So are you constantly asking, how can I grow? How can I get better? Not from a place of I'm not good enough, from a place of I pursue excellence in all that I do. Okay, next one. How do I want to be remembered? How do I want to be remembered? So I want you to think of this concept. Brendan Burchard, my mentor, he's one of the world's greatest coaches. He calls it mortality motivation. And it's kind of morbid, but I want you to think about your funeral. And I want you to think about, what would you want people to say about you? And guess what? If you live a life of intention, it's going to be much more likely that that's the legacy you're going to leave behind, that that's how you want to be remembered. That will help you dictate how you show up now. Okay, second to last question. Am I loving deeply? I truly believe that loving others and seeing other humans and really seeing humans, really listening. What do you need? What are you working on in your life? What are you up to? What's super going well? How can I support you? If you are about the other person, if you help enough people, right? We know this. If you help enough people get what they want, you will get what you desire. I became Saleswoman of the Year in Nevada, and I truly believe, with no sales training, no formal sales training at that point, and I truly believe I just loved people. I just loved more people. I went on 213 coffee dates in the first year of my business, and I just listened to people, and I added value to them, and I showed up with my energy. So you're not loving people to get something out of it, but you will in the process. So it's a win-win. And then last, this is all about confidence. This question is all about confidence. So the question is, am I keeping the promises I make to myself? So this is where discipline and confidence goes awry. And this is where you'll struggle in your life when you feel, and I'm there. I'm not perfect. I struggle with this all the time. You know, it's really hard to really like yourself if you're not living and behaving in congruence with your stated values. So if I have a value of being fit and I eat Oreos all day long because they're so delicious, it's going to be really hard to really feel good about myself. It's going to be hard to feel confident in my ability to say, I think I have discipline, because I don't, right? So are you keeping the promises you make to yourself? That's the definition of confidence. It's the ability to confide in oneself. Confidence. Okay, those were the 20 questions. Share them with your friends. Really work on them. You deserve to give this some time. And we'll see you on the next Mind Your Own Business call. Bye, everybody.